speaker is Radoslav Nikolov, who is from South Bulgaria. And
Hi.
I want to say that he's my student, and I'm very proud that the boss of South Bulgaria is my student, and I want to thank him that he joined the conference because he's actually a very clever guy. He knows that artificial intelligence is something important, and we should think about this. Okay, it's you.
Hello, everyone. Can we hear and see each other? Can you hear me?
Okay, we hear you.
And you see the presentation, right?
Yes, we can see.
Right. Thank you so much, Mitko. Yes, it's a pleasure for me and honor to be presenting in this conference. And I'll be talking in the next minutes around the complexity, the challenges of the enterprise software, and particularly the software that has been installed in the business context, customers around the world that are running their businesses on using these solutions, and how AI is actually disrupting them. And though we are not yet into the AGI era, right, be able to leverage it, already the current state of AI technologies, especially agentic AI, is putting quite of a big disruption into this landscape. So these companies that we as consumers, actually any product, any service that we consume and we take, it's being developed by a company into the enterprise world, which is running an enterprise software, so to say, in short. And what's kept happening already, it's quite interesting, and what is going to happen in the next year is mind-blowing. So in the next minutes, I will be walking you through this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. So my name is Radoslav Nikolov. I'm Managing Director of the SAP Labs for Southeast Europe, which is consisting Bulgaria and Romania. And without further ado, let's a few words on SAP. So we are a leading vendor of enterprise software. So with our software, our companies, our customers are running their operations end-to-end on a daily basis, and not just to be compliant with regulations and whatsoever, and produce their products and services, but also through our software, we give them competitive advantage from all the insights we can provide based on their historical and present data, and give them future directions on the competitive edge. A few numbers, just a few of the many numbers we have. Out of the 100 largest world companies today, 98 of our customers, of course, on top of this, we have hundreds of thousands of customers. 84% of the global trade transactions that happen daily, these are trillions of US dollars, are touching an SAP system or going through an SAP system to that transactional process. And in short, our software has been covering 5 big domains which are essential for the life cycle of any company nowadays, in the area of finance, in the area of human resources, in the area of supply chain, in the area of procurement and customer experience and engagement. On top of these 5 standard domains, we do have coverage for 26 different industries. So these are industry adaptations of the standard software that are essential and different from an industry to industry. Moving on. So the complexity of the business landscape, I'd like to say a few words about it. And when I say business landscape, that means at a customer side, on company side, what kind of players do we see nowadays, and a little bit with historical aspect, plus what kind of challenges we see, or the bigger challenges. So if we go back only 25, 26 years ago, we will see only up to 10 players. I mean, big players, which are worldwide recognized, not addressing, there are millions of companies in every country that are developing any type of business software, but the bigger players were about 10 or so. So us from SAP Oracle being very horizontal with coverage, multiple aspects of the business needs. And then we see some of the examples of the verticals, so to say, which are being specializing into the human resources or financials and so on. And if I go fast forward 20 years later, we see 100 global key players in the various verticals and various horizontals, right? And then if I go only 5 years later, then just up to last year, we see more than 330 key players, global players, that are just bringing more complexity to this kind of setup and landscape. And why would that be bringing challenge? One could say this is a normal competition, so customers can pick and choose. That's right. So from the competition, we definitely achieve a lot of innovations and a lot of creativity. However, there is probably no single company big enough, probably above 1,000 people, let's say, that is having only one software vendor that will supply all these different business processes that a company needs to operate and exist. So that will be usually a set of different vendors for these verticals that a company will use. And with the company growing and acquiring other companies, these acquisitions will come up with their software vendors of the business software and processes. So just to outline the complexity that any vendor or a particular country will have a set of different, I mean, not any vendor, but any customer, right? Any business will have a set of software vendors which will be installed on their landscape. And with the acquisitions or expansions in new markets, they tend to make more bigger complexity to this landscape. And I will come back to this in a moment. Now, what kind of common challenges we see with the business software, and especially coming from the fact of this complexity that I just outlined that customers are perceiving? And I will just talk about three of the bigger challenges, of the common challenges. There are multiple, of course. The first and by far foremost is the integration. So you can imagine that a business process usually does not start and end in the very same vertical solution like HR. We hire people through the HR system, but then we need to pay them salaries. So this happens from the financial system, right? So it's obviously an integration needs to happen in these two systems. And this is very small and simple example. Usually business processes of a company are spawning various such verticals, which might come from various vendors. Or from the same vendor, but the vendor acquired companies, therefore products in the meanwhile, and already the complexity became even from the same vendor. While these companies cannot be immediately integrated, and these products, still you see the glitches into integration and to the experience of the customer, of the employee of the customer going through the systems. They might know very well their business processes, but how these business processes are represented by the software is where the complexity starts. And as you need to start the process from one solution, and then stop at some point and take the data from it and start and continue from another solution, this is this integration gap which I'm addressing. And even if the same vendor is coming up with multiple solutions that are touching the very same business process, integration offer comes late because customers are expecting it. They don't expect to pay about it, and the integration is usually pushed at the very bottom of their priority list of functionalities and new features. Then the other big challenge and common challenge we see is with the user experience. So usually usability will be a straightforward factor of how well a company, a software vendor, is representing the business process along general business process into their software service or software product, so to say. So though companies believe they're greatest in how easy and in a usable manner they can provide their features, their screens, and so on, the reality is a bit much different. So we see customers, especially the bigger ones, so the bigger the customer, the more expense they need, the more cost they incur in this direction. Customers spend thousands and millions of euro and US dollars on an annual basis just to keep the training on the right level of their employees that use business software. Because initial training is clear, but then everything evolves. We bring up new UIs or new functionalities to the system or new functionalities to the UI, so it becomes more easy to use. You still need to retrain your people, which is again taking a lots of money. So I would say there is a direct connection between the strive for innovation and faster cycles of releasing and adopting innovation at the customer side. This relates directly with higher costs on the training before they can actually leverage that innovation. And the third one I want just to briefly mention is the user interfaces. So what we've been seeing in the business software, but not only, we have very fixed user interfaces with limited adaptability. Like if a user, an employee at the customer side wants to change and hide stuff or bring up functionality in their cockpit from another system, this is by far very limited. Okay, there are solutions into this direction and how to also adapt processes and so on, which are represented by the software, but usually this is very limited and not enough of how a customer, an employee, a user would think and imagine this could happen. Now I'll come back to this complexity of the business landscape and bringing the AI topic, right? The last 1 or 2 years only, we see a handful of companies, with, let's call them AI native companies. You see some of them, or most of them are large language model developers and producers and vendors in this direction. And they are trying, though they do not have the business knowledge, they are trying also to penetrate and become players into this aspect of the business world, so to say, especially by implementing AI assistants and especially AI agents that are able to solve some or even all the challenges that I just spoke about. And though these kind of models are not yet bulletproof enough for a business world, they're already having quite some progress and quite some successes. Therefore, also software vendors like SAP and others that are generally having enough experience into this space, we need to move faster than ever in order to adopt all these trends into the AI, especially agentic AI, so we solve these challenges and bring much more value to our customers. So what we see is really a trend that is much faster nowadays, that if before software was executing what the human decided, right? And now we see, and after in the next months and years, will be much more thoroughly seen that AI is there to really sense, reason, interact between AI agents and so on. So it can run already quite some of the processes in the company in an automatic manner. So it's really a category shift rather than a feature upgrade, what we see now in this context. In addition to this, I'll talk briefly about the value shift of the applications. And this is a representation on the very bottom. We have applications. These are business applications, these 5 categories. Let's say applications in the area of human capital management. So how we hire people, how we develop people, right? How we retain people and so on. Just an example, right? And there are multiple of those. Then these applications is the majority we have, especially at SAP side. For 50 years, we've been developing mostly applications. And we have the data layer on top, which is, again, a representation only. What applications kind of created, it's tons of data, right? We have petabytes of data only in our systems. And in the world of business, this is much, much more. And then lately, in the last years, it comes AI, but AI will not be able to function well in our context if it's not stepping on the right data, on clean data, homogeneous data that can help users to execute particular tasks. For example, if I want to go to a business trip, I can tell nowadays on AI agents without going to the kind of spend management and travel and expense management system. Just tell the agent in a conversational way how I want to go to this country, for example, from here to there, like a time interval. And then the agent can work with the system, which is integrated furthermore to kind of find the right hotel or propose some hotels to me, book a ticket so I can do the whole trip and so on. So this is like the AI helping the user to do particular tasks, which is still coming down to the application stack. And in the particular application, just automates activities which are triggered by the user, right? So this is very important. And majority of still the value is in the applications. And now we see a shift, and this is very quick shift that we see that, and we believe this will be very fastly commoditizing the application stack. And the bigger value and most focus will go into the AI layer with the agentic direction. So we will see agents being, and we already see them, right? But this will be very much speeded up in the next months and years. We see agents not just collaborating in one particular system of HR or supply chain management or finance, but we will see agents collaborating between those systems. And this will be a set of agents capable of running small tasks. And then on top, let's say a super agent that is able to really reason across those systems, find the right agents, find the right tools that can be used and leverage from any vendor, right, at a customer landscape to fulfill a task end to end. And this is a huge paradigm shift and a trend shift. which through this, obviously, we will address the integration. It's already happening. So agents are able to operate across systems and domains in a much more loosely coupled sense. So we don't need to do a very tight integration, but rather simply have the systems exposing their APIs and tool sets with the LLMs and additional foundational models and developed agents. They can run quite some of these activities in an autonomous manner. On the user experience side is interesting. You don't need the agents there. It's just normal AIs nowadays. It's already shifting that paradigm that customers need to train their people extensively and often. We see this already being resolved to a big extent. Nowadays, if you go in a conversational manner, in a particular AI assistant, then simply, if you know what you want to do from a business perspective, and usually our customers and their employees know about it, they know their business, right? And if they know what they need to do, they don't need to know the system and where to click and which screens and which buttons and so on to fulfill the whole process. They, in a conversational manner, simply ask the system, interact with the system, and then simply chooses what the system is providing, like what the AI assistant is providing, and simply fulfilling the process they for. And last but not least, in the UI side, it's a huge innovation that it's possible now with the agents and AI enablement. We start talking about Gen UI, so generative UI. So now users are able, to go in a cockpit and simply through a conversational, again, interaction, kind of fetch data from various systems, no matter from which vendor, and the AI is providing such dashboards, analytics. You can say, what's the sales data from last week, or give me, and I want to put that dashboard in my cockpit and simply stay there and always be updated. So I, as a user, I can now render my UI, my business UI, so to say, in a way that it's fulfilling my personal needs. And the colleague next to me can have a different representation of that UI depending on her or his role. We can also share these controls and these UIs in the organization and way more. So this is this huge shift that it's possible already now. Now, the advantage that we have at SAP, again, coming from this layered approach, the bottom is the applications, then the data they produce, and then the only way the AI can be really fulfilling good and actual and punctual up closer to the 100% activities, it needs to step on data. Otherwise, it's just generic, could do quite some stuff, but unfortunately, this will not be even closer to 80% accuracy. And into the world of business, you don't want 80% accuracy. Even 90% accuracy is not enough. Imagine if a company would tell a company that their taxation, for example, will be with 90% accuracy. They wouldn't go for this. There are big consequences to them in financial and not only manner if this is the case. So in order to achieve 100% accuracy through AI and agentic AI, the data and the quality of data is very important. Therefore, we have this exposure to the data from multiple of our customers, and the ones that agree to participate and willingly to provide the data for our models. We have trained a number of foundational models, not only on our coding and our documents, but also on the business data coming from real businesses out there. So therefore, when we provide these models and the data representation in the so-called knowledge graph, so the data semantically is hooked and is consumable by the AI, then on top of the model, the AI agents that we developed, and our customer develop, they can really go and do a concrete task very punctually and very clearly on 100% accuracy. That's very, very important, especially everywhere, but especially in the world of business. And very quickly to touch that we are now transitioning in the so-called autonomous enterprise. So by our software, now much more empowered by a SAP Business AI platform underneath that is providing all these capabilities to develop agents, all the different foundational models that are being traded in-house, and the knowledge graph, so the semantical representation of the data, plus on top the autonomous suite, which is again these 5 domains plus the industries. But now we have not just functionality that's been developed so far, but we have agents that are able to run parts of that functionality autonomously. And on the very top, you see SAP Joule, which is the ultimate agent, so to say. You can sense it. It's like looked at it as a super agent that is able to be the single entry point for our customers and users to the whole world of SAP systems, but also non-SAP systems, for example. So agents from others can also be put into and modeled into our AI hub, and then agentic hub. And then on any request from the user, this super agent can really reason and understand what activities needs to be done, which agents I need to fetch, what tools I need to give them access to, so they can run these activities simultaneously. And then such, of course, can be triggered, so they run parts or even full business processes end to end without any human interaction. So you can imagine that on a shop floor, on a production site, something happens. So you don't need, immediate human intention. It could be the agent just gets the event, triggers reasoning across the system, understands what needs to be done, what needs to be repaired, could be fetched from a warehouse. And a warehouse agent will be kind of triggered. They might be in the warehouse, a robotic agent, so a real human kind of robot that through the agentic layer will be called to fetch a particular spare part, be brought to the factory and be fixed. Again, might be from a robot, might be from a human, or in one way or another. But definitely the trend is going much more into this, the business to be run end to end by the agentic layer, and the humans to focus much more on the setting the direction, setting the goals, thinking about competitive angles and future kind of opportunities that we can go for, and govern the agents, monitor the outcome, and so on. And this is happening already now. On the internal side of the house, of course, this is what we provide to customers in our direction, but also internally, we are enabling all the people basically with AI tooling, so they can do their work as fast as possible and as quality as possible, so to increase their productivity. So we are providing 68 models from 8 large language model providers out there. We are developing our own foundational models for our use, but also for our customer use. We are doing lots of training, hackathons, so we can not just make our people knowledgeable in the space of AI and what's out there available, but also keep their knowledge up to date. Because what was there like 2 months ago, it could change even into this agentic direction, and we need to adapt it, or at least figure out if we want to adapt it now or a bit later, and so on. And my last slide is like, if we think about just a few years back, right, 5 years back, and I know that from AI, machine learning, even agentic direction its researchers are dating back since 1950s, 1960s. But until recently, they were not really available for a mass use. They were not democratized. You can't really, general fashion leverage it, not even thinking about bringing it to the world of business, right, to the enterprises, to the business software, where clarity of execution makes a lot. It's very important, right, for regulational perspective, for the fact that a company is not just well maintained but it's able to run, but actually it all exists. I can't imagine the bigger companies could exist without business software nowadays. Therefore, it's a technology very new, right? For the last 2 years, we see this super big trend into the agentic directions, where nowadays is already visible that agents can run parts of the business and growing and handle exceptions and reason across agents and across systems to fulfill much more complex activities, where it's been just the home turf of humans just a couple of years ago or 1 year ago. So, and we see this, that companies should really be thinking very progressively into this direction. They're not just missing features, right, if they do not go into this trend, but they might be missing their future. That's our big concern and our big message out there. And if this is happening just for the last few years, we're in this exponential curve. But we are after the bigger part. Now we in the steeper part of the exponential curve, which means for months, for 1 year, we can see changes which were in the past needed tens of years, right, to happen. Therefore, my challenge is like, can we imagine what's coming in 2030 if already 25 and 26? This is possible, and this is how it's connected, right, with AGI and how we how humans will be interacting further and collaborating with AGI direction, and what comes further for us as humanity, and what's in front of us, so to say. I believe interesting times are in front of us. I hope they're also exciting times. And with this, I thank you, and I finish with this quote, which resonates very well, also with the topic. And this quote has been there for 25 years. Started probably at the era of the cloud computing and these trends, but it's nowadays with AI, it's more than ever valid, as the time is not on our side, so to say. So everything happens so quickly. So it's not the big that eats the small; it's the fast that eats the slow. It's this in the context of competition of companies, of course. So no matter how big a company is and what kind of tradition it has, if it's not fast enough to adapt to the daily trends, especially in the AI aspect, it will not be challenged a lot and might not even survive. It needs the fast that are making setting up the trends nowadays. It's not the big. So with this, I thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address.